Erica, you saw that sign? It says, "We are live." We are live. All right. So I'm
Wonderful.
hoping,
Hi.
hi, we were having some technical challenges earlier. And so we're very thankful for those of you who stuck around. I'm checking my phone to see if we're showing up online, which I'm hoping we are. I'll see in a moment. But Erica, welcome. And yep, Erica, I think we're live there. Welcome to the show,
Okay, great.
Erica.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank
You
you.
know, I was looking in my messages on LinkedIn, Erica. We met in March of 2021, just online, and I remember um, in our early communications, I didn't know you were a breast cancer survivor, and it was after I saw you made a
Yes.
post about you had received a journal from another survivor, and you said something about that, and I said, Erica, I had no idea you were a breast cancer survivor. And I said, listen, I haven't said this to anyone as yet, but I just got diagnosed a few months ago. And then we had a different kind of bonding. And I remember you reaching out to offer to help me with my conference and so forth. And so I'm just glad that we're having this conversation. We were supposed to have met up in Charlotte. It never happened. You were attending, I think, a
Right.
TD conference. And it never happened. But hey, we love technology. And so I'm so glad you're here, Erica. And I'd love for you to tell our guests a little bit about your background. I know you're a professor at GW, you have your own company with the career coaching. So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about your creds, and then we're going to go into your cancer journey.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Before I get started, I just want to say to you, Sharon, thank you so much for having me today. It is truly an honor. I'm really, really glad to be here. So, I am from Indianapolis, where I was born and raised. I moved to Washington, D.C. in 2014 in order to begin graduate school there to get a PhD, which I ultimately did in social welfare policy with special emphasis on women. Why did I do that? Great question. um, I'm going to start here. I was a teenage single mother. I raised my two sons in Indianapolis. Um, was going to school at night. On the weekend, it was old school videotape classes I would get from the library. This is a true story. Whatever it took. And I finished that degree, 10 years of part time study. I was so determined to finish it. A couple years later, I did a master's degree in nonprofit management. And that was because I began to volunteer for a community nonprofit in Indianapolis for a program for girls
Mm.
called Precious Miss. If anybody from India is listening, it was at CLD. You all know it, the Center for Leadership Development. And so it was middle school girls every Saturday morning for 8 weeks in the fall. And so the first time I was kind of scared. Like these girls are gonna be like, "Who are you? What do you want from me?" And they were a little bit standoffish at first, but then after a couple of weeks of the curriculum, which was just amazing, it was about self-esteem and community service and education, and it was real. And by the way, these were all Black girls.
Mm-hmm.
And after by week three, couldn't get them to be quiet. They had made friends, Miss Erica. And I'm like, okay, sit down. We're going to do some good stuff. So I did that program for 6 years until I moved to DC. So fast forward, why did I do the PhD? Because I began to learn in that experience with those young girls that my journey was valuable. And
Mm-hmm.
before that, I did not know that. I was
Mm-hmm.
ashamed, deeply ashamed of not finishing high school like I was supposed to, of becoming a teenage mother, of not fulfilling my potential, in my mind, and all the rest of it. So quite honestly, Sharon, and whoever else is watching, I spent years. trying to become the person I thought I was supposed to be before I messed up in my
Mm,
mind.
wow. Looking back on that journey, right? Because I understand that, especially not only is your own mind maybe saying that, maybe there may be other people who felt like you are operating below their expectations. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Family.
when I say certain people, I meant family, but I didn't want to, I just didn't want to get too critical. But
Oh,
family,
it's okay, but in my mind, let me be clear. In my mind, yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yes, because
Hmm.
family, whether they say loudly or it's just that look or that just that energy that you feel when you're around them, that
Hmm.
disappointing energy. And so, in looking back on that, right, and how you
Hmm.
had to, strive and struggle for 10 years to get that PhD to prove to
Oh no, I'm
yourself,
sorry. No. I'm sorry. That was just the undergrad. Was 10 years.
10 years,
That was
wow,
undergrad.
10 years
Yeah.
to get your undergrad, wow. Looking back on that, do you think it was worth it? Did you think it was worth it?
Oh my goodness. The most powerful lesson I have ever learned is a sermon by Bishop T.D. Jakes. Nothing you have been through will be wasted.
Mm, powerful, powerful,
Nothing. And he
powerful.
talks about Moses being the only one who could go back to
Hmm.
Egypt and set the Hebrew people free. The only one. So I heard that sermon as I was beginning to move to DC. Fast forward. So this is like 2014, 2013, 2014. And humbly, I began to put myself in the shoes of Moses,
Hmm.
that I could go through a struggle and have the audacity to believe that I can go through that, elevate myself to the next level, and then help others who had the same struggle as me. How dare I believe such a thing? Well, I came here to tell you that I do believe that. And that's exactly what I've dedicated my life to.
And you have been doing it, and you have been bringing others along. And I want to peel back even further,
Hmm.
because in when I was doing the copy for this program, I was looking at your background, and you mentioned GED, you mentioned food stamps, you mentioned being domestic violence, the things that you
Yes,
have overcome. And before you even get to cancer, before you even
yes,
get to cancer, you
yes.
mentioned about all the things that you've overcome, and I want to. Can we go back there a little bit too? Because
Absolutely. You know what? I'm okay now. We can go there.
yeah, and that's why I asked permission, because not every
Yes.
can needs to be opened, but it's because you made that kind of public. I thought let's go
Mhm.
back there too, and I'm going to tell you, Erica, the reason why. One of the
Okay.
reasons why, because sitting before me is a strong, qualified Black woman. And sometimes the word strong Black woman is so negative in the media, because
Hmm.
I think a lot of times the media's impression of a strong Black woman is an aggressive Black woman. And
Hmm.
that's not the
Hmm.
case. A strong Black woman is who I'm looking at right now, who has been
Thank you.
through a lot, who is a single mom who took 10 years to finish her undergrad degree, but went on to get her
Hmm.
PhD eventually, who's teaching at GW. That is what I define as a strong Black woman. And it could also be a white woman. I don't really care the color.
Right.
It's the
Right.
strength behind it, because there's Hispanic women doing that. There's white
Right.
women doing that. And so, we say the strong Black woman. And I just want the perception to be that the strong Black woman isn't a loud, aggressive Black woman. It's a woman who's from the projects or whatever and have to come on up. So take us back a little bit to um, domestic affairs,
Hmm.
if as much as you want to share, or
Listen, if it's helpful to anyone, I'm glad to talk about it. Sure, sure. What's your question for me?
so you mentioned that you had to overcome that, and you were explaining that in your journey of all the different things you've overcome to become a thriver.
Hmm.
And I like you said earlier, TD Jakes said nothing is wasted.
Nothing.
And
Nothing you've been through will be
I,
wasted.
I am
It's
wondering if when you
true.
were, yeah, if when you were diagnosed, if if it was the strength of those times that pulled you through your diagnosis, and we'll get to your diagnosis
Mm.
in a second.
Okay. Um, I would have to say yes. Do you know that I had the um pleasure isn't the word I'm looking for, privilege of sitting down recently and writing every time God has blown my mind. I have some I have some things going on right now that I um that are going to require miracle,
Mhm,
and I am believing because he's done it before
mhm,
and he can do it again. My girlfriend Deborah calls that crazy faith.
mhm. Yep.
So yes, looking back on all of that, I was 16 years old, 15, 16, and by my own and for whatever reasons, which we don't have time for today, I began to date the worst one in the neighborhood, and got pregnant at 16. Um, and he was wonderful, of course, when we started dating, and then began to hit me, and then it just didn't stop. And I'm 16 years.
Mhm,
Um, that's a really tough situation, and I know that there are women, young women, perhaps my age at the time, older than the 20s, 30s, and so on, who go through that. Um, that's a tough one, and one can say, well, why don't you just leave him? There were psychological reasons. I can look back on it now.
yeah.
Why I felt that I needed to be protected. Let's just say I was not being protected like I should have been at that age at home.
Yeah.
And so he provided for me a level of protection from other people. And so that's why I continued, um, until one day I just didn't, let's just say. And I'm kind of that way. I'm kind of like, I'll just come to myself one day and say, I'm not doing that no more. It's just over.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was really young. And what I've thought about that since that time is, if it had to happen to me, I'm glad it happened when I was really young because it taught me something very early. No man would ever put their hands on me ever again, or it was not going to be a pretty situation. And I was real naive, green as a blade of grass at the time. Um, let's just say not anymore. And I haven't been for quite some time. I'm
Mhm,
not aggressive, but I'm very assertive about myself. And
mhm,
no one is going to hurt me. It's just not going to happen. I am very happily married. We've been married 4.5 years. And I told him the other day, my husband, I'm so thankful that God saved you for me. I was his first wife, his only wife. He's 50, he just turned 50 years old. And he's a wonderful Christian man. I'm like, wow. Because I was also convinced, here we go, that somebody else had married my husband, meaning I had spent so much time playing games as an adult, that whoever God had for me, somebody else snagged him. I really kind of thought that for a while until I got over it, and let's just say things began to go in the right direction. And yeah, we've been married 4.5 years, so yay.
Well, congrats, Erica. Congratulations
Thank
on that. I
you.
think your husband was with you when you came to Charlotte, right? I think he was there.
Absolutely. He don't leave my side. Of course he was there.
Erica, I appreciate you sharing that about your past. We don't have to dwell there,
Mhm.
but what I want to say to anyone watching now or even on the replay is that your past never defines your future. You know, the 16-year-old who was pregnant and being abused is still the same Dr. Erica Wells, the Erica
Well,
Walls, who teaches at GW University. And so nothing is wasted.
that's
Erica,
right.
go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, no, I said thank you.
Oh, yes.
That's all.
Erica, talk to us about your cancer story. When did it start and how did it start?
When did it start? Well, I found out later that it started when I was born
Really?
because, yes, runs in my father's side of the family. I learned later, but we can fast forward to 2018.
Hmm.
So in February 2018, I discovered that I had a lump in my left breast, and it scared me to, I mean, made my heart pound fast. So I had a lot going on at the time. I had just begun my dissertation proposal, and I was supposed to present it in like at the end of March. So I just put it in the back of my head, like, no, this ain't no cancer. It's whatever. You know what? You know why it ain't cancer? Let me tell you why. Because I shop at Whole Foods
Mm,
and I do step aerobics, old
mm,
school step aerobics. And there's no way. And beyond that, let me get even deeper with you. God wouldn't do that to me.
mm.
He wouldn't
Hold
let that
on.
happen to me.
Erica, just saying that alone, Erica, just saying that alone is so I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It's so arresting, and I'll tell you why. Because so many people blame themselves for cancer that they didn't eat at Whole Foods, they didn't
Mm,
exercise,
mm,
they didn't serve God. And so here you
mm.
are thinking, I'm eating at Whole Foods, I am exercising,
You know,
serving God, and I'm diagnosed. So keep going.
not only that, keep in mind, I was busier than busier than busy. So I ain't had time for cancer. So
Hmm.
there was that too. And I didn't know it. I was about to get engaged. I
Wow.
ain't got time for cancer. What? So, so I found this lump, ignored it, denied it, choose whatever word you like. And by mid March, I knew I felt again, and I said, I sat myself down. I said, I have to deal with this. Look yourself in the
Hmm.
mirror and say it fast 3 times. I've got to deal with this because I cannot go out like this, and I will not.
Hmm.
I can't go out like this. I'm gonna go out some kind of way, but it ain't gonna be like this. It
Hmm.
ain't gonna be today or soon. So I did not know what to do. So I was a graduate student at GW. So I went to GW and I teach there, by the way. Wow, what a blessing. They couldn't get rid of me. So I'm a PhD student at GW, broke, by the way, with a 5 room efficiency that you couldn't tell me nothing about right there on the GW campus. It was all that. And I had no health care. 43 years old. 43 years old, eating at Whole Foods, doing step aerobics, praying every day. So I believe what you need healthcare for. I got faith.
Hmm.
So and let me not, I'm not trying to downplay faith, but what I am saying is that is not faith. That is unwise behavior. I had no healthcare. I'm a human being, a woman with a family with a history of cancer, with no healthcare, no health insurance. So I didn't know what to do. So one day I sat in a chair and I sent an email to a dear friend I used to work with. I used to work at the pharmaceutical company, a pharmaceutical company. I won't mention the name. And I worked with the person who was in charge, director of global cancer advocacy. And she wasn't just that by title. She eats it, sleeps it, drinks it. She is it. And I knew that I could reach out to her and she'd tell me what to do. And I emailed her. And within an hour, I had a response back. And I told her in the email, I can't even speak. So please don't call me. I'm not gonna call you. I don't know what to do. She said there is a center in DC called Breast Care for Washington. Call them, ask for Emily, and they will help you. I remember this like it was yesterday. This
Hmm.
was
Of
March
course.
2018. And I didn't say anything. I was like, okay. I did that. So, kind of find out, Emily was a patient navigator. I did
Mm-hmm.
call, and I had three appointments. Ended up being initially, a mammogram, ultrasound, and finally a biopsy with the oncologist, Dr. Regina Hampton. And 3 weeks later or so, um, she called me on a Thursday morning, and I could tell by the tone of her voice it was not good. She hesitated a little, and I knew that if it was negative, that there would be no hesitation. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, "Yeah, it's cancer." That's what she said. And I sat in that chair in my 5 room efficiency in downtown DC, and I said, "Oh wow, oh
Mm-hmm.
wow,
Mm-hmm.
okay." So I was able to, let's see. So I was diagnosed, and then Breast Care for Washington helped to connect me to my cancer treatment team, which included doctors at GW as well as at Georgetown University. My surgeon was through Georgetown. My oncologist was through GW, but they used to work together, so it was fine. They would talk all the time. It actually amazed me. I'm like, I know y'all got more patients. They act like I was the only one, and I knew that wasn't true. And ultimately, I ended up doing 6 months of chemotherapy. I lost every hair on my head, and this is a big deal
Mm-hmm.
because my hair was my thing. People
Mm-hmm.
complimented my hair all the time. And then to lose it was like losing a piece of my identity. And then I didn't have any eyebrows, and I just felt weird about having no eyebrows. And I I didn't want people to know because I'm private. I'm not secretive, but I'm private. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt defeated. I felt like a hypocrite. I'm being honest because I have friends on campus who, when they would have problems, I would direct them to the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So how is the one directing somebody to the Bible? How she got cancer? What? So
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a hypocrite, which is crazy, but that's the correct word.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, so 6 months of chemotherapy, um, three surgeries. First, a double mastectomy because they found out that I have a BRCA2
Mm-hmm.
mutation runs in the family. Not a surprise. We've had lots of it. So I had both of my breasts, the tissue removed. They were able to do one. I don't know how, well, this is healthcare called nipple sparing for any of you out there. There's a lot to say. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's a big deal to some women. I mean,
Yeah.
to be mutilated. They
Mm-hmm.
want, it was important to the physicians to for me to feel as whole as possible. And so
Mm-hmm.
they talked to me about that. And we worked in consultation with the plastic surgeon on how this would go.
Mm-hmm.
So double mastectomy. And then just for fun, check this out. I discovered that I had bleeding polyps in my uterus during this time, completely unrelated. So November, finished chemotherapy. December, double mastectomy. January, full hysterectomy.
Mm.
February, breast reconstruction. March, I got married.
Oh my God. I love your husband already. Okay. Can you give that man a hug?
I could not make this up.
Give that man a hug for me.
I
Okay.
will. I
And
will.
we had a couple on the on the Tea Talk yesterday. Peter is
Mhm.
on the line. He interviewed
Mm.
his wife, who is a breast cancer survivor as well. And we talked about my own husband. Let me tell you, the men who have to go through this with their wives, I applaud them. And your fiance actually stuck with you through all of this.
Well, let me tell you more
Wow.
and promise me you won't order him a medal on Amazon or something.
Okay.
But let me tell you more. I was diagnosed in April 2018, and he proposed to me in May 2018 on his
Wow.
knee. And he knew the day I found out. And
Wow.
he was like, I'm believing God, and you are going to be fine, and you're going to be my wife. And that's just the end of it. And I was like, well,
Amazing.
amen.
Amazing. 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 Let me just put some things up here for a second. So Peter says, what a powerful and purposeful statement. Nothing is wasted. Maureen says, yes, strength is often mislabeled as aggressive. For many women, we have to push through that and stand as strong women experiencing and overcoming our diagnoses. Is there an experience in your health journey that comes to mind when you felt being a woman was an obstacle in itself?
No, I love being a woman. If I was, yeah, I love being a woman. No.
Okay. Okay. And then Sarah, who's my partner on this show and the founder of Total Health, she said an educated patient is an empowered patient. You are rare. You have access to a great team, great education, and great shared decisions. What do you think the biggest gap in patient care in breast is?
As I was going through this journey, something that dawned on me was about the mental and emotional piece. I don't
Mm,
think that that gets enough credit. I was freaked out that I was now part of a club that I never signed up to be a member of. I remember we had to do a chemo class and I had to come in and there were 5 or 6 of us and I'm about to cry. They walked us down a hallway to a room with a table in the middle and we were in chemo class. And I'm like, who are these people? I've never met these people in my life. We're now in chemo. What that meant to me mentally was just awful,
mm-hmm,
you know? And not just that, I couldn't go to church. I had to wear a mask on the subway before masks were cool. There was no mask, there was no pandemic. Okay.
mm-hmm,
And I felt like a freak. And I
mm-hmm,
decided not to wear a wig. That was my own personal decision. I am extremely blessed. My godmother is Nigerian and she equipped me with all kinds of head wraps and they matched my outfits. So it just looked like I meant to do that. But
mm-hmm,
if you don't know how to do that or how to try to look normal, um, it can be mentally devastating, especially if you're not really strong in who you are. Looking
mm-hmm.
back on it, Sharon, looking back on it now, I should have just rocked my bald head. I should have just walked down the street. I should have just drew on some eyebrows and been like, what? But I also didn't rock a bald head because my husband is bald and we would have looked strange together, I think. I didn't want to be that. But
Yeah.
it was some of those things too, the things I could not do because of for fear that my immune system was too weak to be with people.
Mm-hmm,
That was tough. That was tough. And oh, I had just begun teaching and I was afraid. I had taught my first class that spring and finished it. That cancer diagnosis, but you finish what you start. And
mm-hmm,
then I knew I was going into chemo and they wanted me to teach in the fall. I didn't know if chemo was going to make me sick. I didn't know if I was going to be bald and the students would be thinking, what's going on with her? Just all of those kinds of things. And then I had to tell, people at the school, and I was very selective about who I told. And
mm-hmm.
then, as always, it worked out. It worked out. But even that conversation, I was not in a place to just open up and let everybody know what was going on. I just wasn't.
And I can identify with what you're saying. I didn't have chemo, but I certainly identify with all the other stuff. And, the gap in patient care in breast, or maybe any cancer, but we as women with the whole breast thing, I think, like you said, just the emotional, the fears, the unknown. Recently, I had to do a scan, my 6 month scan. I was telling you before the show, and it was Sarah, who's a cancer advocate, who um, she was the one. She kind of calmed me down because I said, "Hey, I'm going for this thing. I'm a little bit anxious, And then she gave me some statistics and some facts. She's also a woman of God, so we have the faith side too, but and the science
Yes.
side, and just
Yes.
having that voice to say, "Here is how this goes at this stage where you're at. This is what most likely you're going to experience. So don't worry about this particular thing." Just that alone lifted so much from me going into my ultrasound on yesterday. So I hear what you're saying, and I don't know how we fix that because I know there are a lot of advocacy groups and navigators and this and that, but there is that piece of just that dread piece, and how do you navigate, just your own emotions. That I agree with you with that. So Maureen wants to clarify something that she asked. She said, to clarify, many women are treated differently than men are treated by providers. Is there an
Hmm.
experience where being a woman made your journey harder?
Give me 1 second. Treated
Yeah.
differently than men. Let's just say that perhaps because of the early experiences I had, such as domestic violence, I've learned how to speak up for myself. And I can do it in a way that is completely respectful, but I won't stop until I get the answer that I am looking for. And I'll ask it three different ways if I need to and smile sweetly in between
Yeah.
until I get my answer. Now, I'll say this, my surgeon was a woman,
Hmm.
Dr. Shauna Willie at Georgetown University. My oncologist was a woman, Dr. Rebecca Kaltman at GW. She's no longer there, but that helped
Hmm.
maybe. But my breast surgeon was a man. I'm sorry, my reconstruction plastic surgeon, and he understood. He had done these things many, many times. So I think that just them having empathy, but they were also. I told them, be straight with me. Because when
Hmm.
Dr. Willie told me, you have triple negative breast cancer, and this
I was
is
about to
very
ask you.
aggressive.
Yes. Is that what you
It's
had
and
to?
I absolutely, absolutely,
Do
which
you
of
know what
course
stage
means
you
that
were?
I'm
Do you know
sorry.
what stage you were when they caught it? Do you know what stage?
One, one or one and a half, but
Hmm.
just doing surgery wasn't going to do it because my
Right.
breasts were small, and as Dr. Willie said, we will mangle you going in and to get the cancer out.
I see.
And then you need to do chemotherapy as a preventative measure. And that was when I started digging and asking. And I'm educated. So I was like, what? She said, evidence. She used the word evidence. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you trying to tell me it's possible that there could be more cancer within me?
Hmm.
Well, it's possible. So we want to take preventative measures that's why we need to do chemotherapy for anything that's microscopic. It never
Hmm.
even dawned on me.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, okay, so 6 months of this, even though you're going to go in and take it out, I still got to do this. But what was
Hmm.
wonderful, once I started the chemo, the lump began to shrink. It responded quickly,
Hmm.
um, and then they were able to remove it completely in December, and they were sure of it when I went back, to for a checkup or for the results. They were sure it was gone. There was a scare that I might have to have radiation, but I did not have to,
Hmm.
and it's been 5 years.
Amen to that. And the chemo was done before your surgery.
Yes, it was
Okay.
done
And
before my
that
surgery. Yes,
and the
6 months, the
shrunk
whole summer of 2018.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yes,
Interesting.
yes.
So Peter asked, a lot of people think your cancer journey is over once the surgery and the chemo is over, and we know that's not true. What support have you had as a survivor living after cancer?
Well, of course, a medical team thereafter for periodic checkups, but well, I did some advocacy work for and fundraising for breast care for Washington, and that was somewhat therapeutic for me because all
Mm-hmm.
their services, and this is important because I know that you're into equity, all of their services absolutely free. And Dr. Hampton and a partner of hers, she's a Howard grad, Howard University. I believe her partners at the time perhaps were too, but it was important to them to open up this center in wards 7, I believe, in Washington, D.C. If anybody knows, that's one that's low economic
Mm-hmm.
mobility going on in Ward 7, and too many of us going undiagnosed. They even have a mammo van. They're riding around the neighborhood. Who needs a mammogram? Hey, you don't
That's
have to
awesome.
come. We can come to you. So those kinds of things. So I did a lot of public speaking for them, fundraising for them because it was important. I did not pay one dime for any of my services. I owed it to them and I owe it to the next woman to help her.
Awesome. Awesome. That's
Mhm.
so awesome. That's so awesome. So Maurice says we need to know how to do that, to self-advocate for ourselves. Self-advocates, Peter said, I love that. Don't stop until their question is answered. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And set the expectation for how you would like to be communicated with. I mean, Erica, we could spend an hour here on our 10-minute show, which is now 35 minutes, because there's so much. One of the things I want to ask before we go, though, so as you said, I work in health equity, right,
Right.
and
Right.
disparities and this and that. And so here's the struggle for me. So the struggle is it's on both. So I always say everything is on both sides. So we know that the system needs to do a better job in providing equitable care. They need to be educated about the culture, about our different types of types of cancers and our economics and our social determinants. I know that, but I
Yes.
also feel like on the patient side we have to also educate ourselves, right? We have to also, like you said a couple key things. You said, honestly, you said, I had cancer in my family,
Yes.
yet I did not have insurance,
Nope.
right? And you
I,
admitted
I, I
that.
do now.
Yep, you do now. You admitted that. So that's one thing, right? And I know
Hmm.
there's still financial concerns, but we need insurance. You
Yes.
also said that when you first found your lump, you didn't act right away because you were in denial, even though
And busy.
you were busy and didn't want to stop being busy, even though cancer runs in your family.
Yes.
So that's another thing. But eventually you got there. Eventually you did
Yes.
it. And
Yes.
so while we look at health, while we look at the poor outcomes in the Black community, we
Hmm.
know a big part of it we do know is again the medical system, but we also know too it's the our behaviors too, right? It's the delays, it's the not wanting to know, it's not going to get your checkup early, it's
Oh,
all these things. And so what would you say, what would you say to you speak to a lot of Black women, you speak to young Black women, you speak to women our age, you do a lot of coaching with the career. You're over a lot of students at GW. You're mentoring them. How do you appropriately advise them to take care of their health, to be proactive?
Sharon, if you're there,
Do we lose you?
you know what? I hope that, yeah,
I,
yes. Can you tell me the tail end of your question?
yes. How do you advise the women in your circle to advocate for themselves or to take care of their health or to be proactive with it based on what you've experienced? And we'll end with that question.
Sure. Okay. I mean, first of all, I think that it begins with having an annual physical. It begins with having an annual physical and asking the questions, going in with a list of questions that you have. And don't be Googling answers. I mean, seriously, have a good relationship with your doctor, your healthcare team, and ask the questions. And what I mean by keep asking until you get an answer, you might not understand. And also, sometimes doctors, God bless you, but sometimes they have their own language. And
Right.
that was why the navigator went with me to the first visit, was because she expected that there might be some phrases that I did not know. And here I am, I'm all educated, but I'm not educated about the
Right.
cancer language. What is triple negative? What does this mean? So it would be fantastic if physicians and other healthcare professionals can speak in a way that is accessible to everybody, because otherwise it can go over one's head and even make you feel dumb or like you
Hmm.
should know that. And then you're afraid to ask a question because now this whole ego thing is going on in your head, like, I should know that. Oh, I don't know that, but I don't want her to know that. This is your life.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that that's super important.
Yeah. Sarah said, excellent perspective on helping others the way you felt supported along the way. We need you at Total Health, which is our company, to help us expand and empower the patient voice. So, Erica, you may be hearing some more from us. Okay, we do a lot of conferences throughout the year. We're always looking for speakers. So
Okay.
we will continue our convo offline as we've been doing for 4 years.
There you go.
Well, Erica, this show is called Tea Talks, right? And we like to end on a very high note because Tea Talks, your T cells are the cells in your body, your happy cells that fight
Mhm.
cancer. So we like to leave, especially because we talk about cancer all the time on the show. It's a heavy topic, but we like to leave the audience with something that's uplifting, that's going to make them walk away from this call and feel happy or uplifted despite the serious subject matter.
Okay. Okay.
So that's
Um,
I'm giving you that last word.
I would just say, again, you have the opportunity, every one of us, to learn yourself, learn your body. You have the
Mm.
opportunity to do that. And just don't take any day for granted. Every day is a gift. That's why it's called the present. So, yeah. So just make sure that you are appreciating each and every day because it truly is. It's a blessing.
You know, Erica, that is such a sentiment that I hear, such a constant sentiment I hear from so many people in that chair, in the survivor chair, because I think those of us who've gone through that phone call, that awful phone call, we realize from that day forward that every day from that day forward is actually a gift. And so I thank you for saying that. And Jamie says, great talk. Thank you for your courage and sharing your
Thank
story.
you.
And lend strength to all patients facing cancer. Thank you, my friend Erica. And
You're
thank you for
welcome.
those
Thank
who
you.
yes, who are in the chat, keeping us busy. Thank you for your comments and your feedback. And we're going to say goodbye for now. And we'll see you guys back on Tea Talk next Monday. Take care and God bless.
Hey, God bless.